How to advance our human civilization? We're counting in our Western calendar 2000 years. With archaeology, we can count more than 12,000 years. And there are right now theories suggesting that there have been thousands of more years than other civilizations in our planet. Why is this important to us today? I believe that there is always a space for growth and development. And that applies not only for an individual, personal growth, spiritual growth, professional development, economic growth. It applies also for a civilization, for a culture, for a nation, for a community. How can we ensure that we will keep evolving as humanity, as a human species? How can we care for the next generations to do steps forward into their development? Today I want to share with you some of my experiences and insights again many years ago while I was still at university. I did learn and study and listen to spiritual leaders from different religions, to scholars from different traditions. And I got impressed by some thoughts that they shared with me. For some time, for example, I will be learning in the studies of Eastern cultures, and their insights were really managing to inspire me and transform my life. One first thought that comes to my mind today is that one of action and reaction. We studied that in physics, every force creates an equal force back. But in physics, we notice immediately, every time that we push a door, there is a similar force coming back in the other direction. How it works with humanity, how it works with our private life. Every time that we take an action, there is an outcome, a consequence, a series of events that have been triggered by our decisions, our choices, our actions. And that series of events influences not only our life, but also the life of other people. So there is this idea of taking responsibility of your own choices, your own actions, your thoughts, emotions, and feelings, so that you can care for your own life, but also care for the people you love, for your community, and for other people around you. Those are fundamentals of a community, a culture, a company in harmony, in conscious development. But then there are events in history, and we know them, that has changed the life of civilizations, of millions of people, of cultures. And then we wonder why humanity make those choices, why collectives or individuals, leaders, or belief systems, or cultural systems, traditional systems, would engage into such behavior. There are so many questions that probably today we will not be able to answer, but there is certainly a story that we can refer to, history, teaching us a lot on the history of humanity, on the actions of people, of the consequences of our actions and choices. There was this Center of Eastern Studies in my university university where knowledge of philosophy and spirituality of many Eastern traditions was concentrated, and it was a very special unit that students of my university will be able to visit and learn from. It was one of our professors, Honorio Ferrer, who was studying Eastern cultures and philosophies, and because of his engagement in my university, they were able to create this center. It was certainly very inspiring, mostly because the people that was attending to those lessons or going to the library, going to the courses, had the opportunity to meet people of those traditions. And I remember once attending one of these events with hundreds of people visiting a Rinpoche, a Buddhist scholar, and who was teaching about his own philosophy, his own spirituality, his own practices. And I remember also listening to questions asked to him, and at the time it was very present, the pain of the Buddhist people, the Tibetan people, in relation to the intervention of China in their country, in their land, and there were many refugees coming from Tibet all around the world. But then the question was asked to Rinpoche about why such a thing happened, and at the same time there was asked about the power of the meditation practices that they use dedicated to peaceful living, and how a community of people that is dedicated for so many lives to these kind of practices will experience such a violence intervention in their own land. And the explanation was unexpected, and it taught me something very important. He started teaching about collective karma, and basically the idea of karma is an action that have consequences, and somehow those consequences in your own spirit, in your own mind, and in the life of other people will, in your subconscious mind, or energetically, or whatever you believe, will create an outcome also for your life. And what he was sharing is that the Buddhist practices are so powerful, these Tibetan practices are so powerful, because Tibetan people had to purify something very profound that happened in their past as collective. And that was the first time I heard about collective karma, the impact of some deeds that previous generations made in the past, and how future generations still have to pay the bill. And there are many ways to explain this. If you have been familiar, or you are familiar with systemic therapy, systemic positional therapy, systemische Aufstellungen, it's how we know it here, then you know that there is a system of influence from one generation to the other one, not only in the family but in the community, that unlocks or frees your potential. But Rinpoche was not talking about that. He was just saying that in the past, the people that will arrive to Tibet were actually Mongols. The Huns will conquer territories and be very aggressive and very violent and very dominant, and that will create a lot of pain and suffering to thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of people. And history will change, and the descendants of those tribes of traveling with horses, warriors, will become monks eventually and dedicate their lives for peace, to peace. But in a certain moment in time, they will experience also similar violence coming to them, despite the effort of purification and prayer and meditation that they did for thousands of years or hundreds of years. So this lesson, this story conveyed by a Buddhist scholar was really impressing me and made me reflect about all the stories other events that I have been witnessing and reading about. Growing up in South America, the story of indigenous people um, being oppressed for more than 500 years is something that we learn at school. And the shared feelings of protecting and caring for tribes and diversity of cultures in all America are shared by South Americans. And it also gives you a feeling of how other people in Africa and Asia, even in Nordic countries or in Europe, in ancient times will have to experience similar events, that a great empire, a great force of power will decimate a small tribe and culture. In the case of South America, the Inca Empire, when they started their development, they will conquer one by one all of these small cultures in different valleys and expand for almost whole South America, even Central America. They were very specific in the way they did it. The wise people will be moved to another city. The younger women of the royal families of the valley they will attack will move to another place. The leaders will be removed. The military will be also controlled. And only the population will be embraced and requested to use a new language and a culture, a new belief system, and informed that all the property will be given to the Incas, and the Incas will share a percentage of them. In this way, and within Inca laws, they will manage a great territory. There were three fundamental laws: to don't kill, don't steal, and don't lie. In history, we learn these three laws as an example of governance. But actually, there are stories that can be told when people is being oppressed. For example, if you imagine two brothers that are hungry and the harvest is there, they still didn't receive the amount of food that they need to live, and maybe the younger brother today is very hungry and to take an apple or any fruit, that will be considered stealing because it's not his property. If by some reason a military guard noticed that the little brother took a fruit that is belonging to the Inca, he will be punished. He will be asked if he took the food. With fear, when possible, that the two brothers will lie and say that they didn't take it, which will authorize the guard, the military, to punish them. The older brother may protect the young brother, and eventually the military guard will die. So in this action, the two brothers, just looking for satisfying a basic need of food, will steal, will lie, and will kill. In this very simple story, they will be breaking the three main laws of the Inca Empire. And for that reason, they will need to escape and find another place to live in the whole land. This is also a very good example of how laws and principles that may be useful to manage a land, a nation, can be also used in an abusive way. But laws are from humans, and laws change when civilizations and culture change, yet still, if human does not change, the law may change, the technology may change, but we still thinking with the same mindset. And I think this is the main point of advancing a civilization. Many centuries later, let's say about 540 years ago, Europeans came to whole America and millions of Incas and tribes, people in the tribes will die. And not only because of the illnesses that were brought to Latin America, but also because of enslavement and debauchery, killing people. And you can tell one more time that it's a collective karma. After thousands of years of oppressing, cultures and people, the Incas will receive a similar type of experience. So this is an uncomfortable story to tell, but it gives you some food for thought. It is complicated. It's not possible to just explain events in history when 50 generations ago somebody did something and then today somebody will experience something else and establish a relationship between one and the other. Yet today we have this concept of social responsibility, and we would like to be accountable for what our civilization did in the past to others. And for example, there are laws dedicated to share resources or capital or education and technology with South America, with Africa, with Asia, considering the history of colonialism that is in which Europe is involved, for example, and somehow enabling opportunities for the cultures, the people of those countries to develop further. And I think that makes sense. And then probably there are many new ways to do that today, because the legacy of deeds that the people that wanted to have ownership of this new world engaged into, what did they do? Created an outcome for the future civilizations thousands of years later. Wealth like gold, silver, copper, minerals, products, all the economy was not dedicated to help those countries to grow and evolve. It was taken away for Europe to grow and evolve. So for the Nordic countries today to grow and evolve. So this is a fact of history, that all this wealth was from Africa, Asia, and Latin America, was used to enable the first, second, third, and fourth industrial revolutions today. The technology that we have in the Western world and the civilization that have been helping the whole world civilization to evolve, to progress, has been founded by the resources captured, collected in the time of the colonies. As I said, it's a complicated way to see the world if you see that there is a history of the flow of wealth and what is the impact that that wealth has been creating in the world, and that is still creating today, because the flow of wealth, of resources, is still happening. So this way of thinking brings you also to the question of what will come in the future. And that question you can ask in every continent in the world. And obviously you see that it seems to be a cycle, a story that repeats itself again and again in every continent, in every age of history. Every time that a civilization, a culture require resources, will take over the resources of another one neighbor. Um, this has been happening in Africa, in Australia, in Asia, in America, in Europe itself, in whole American continent. Um, so when we are thinking in those terms and we see human history, we are wondering on what needs to happen for humanity to really evolve into a more civilized, harmonious, peaceful um, behavior, to really upgrade our civilization beyond the technology and progress we have, beyond the distance there is between people that experience a high quality of life and the people that do not have even the minimum necessary for living. When we see that gap and we see history, we are wondering what needs to happen for humanity as a species to do a step beyond that cycle and evolve and develop a new advanced civilization. Those are choices that cannot be made by leaders only. Those changes can happen only if the human species itself makes as collective also a conscious choice to evolve, to change, to choose a different way of making decisions, to learn a different way to lead their own life, to lead their own culture, to lead the management of their own resources, the management of wealth, to enable quality of life for everybody in a different way. It is not about you enjoying the quality of life that you have right now because your parents or grandparents created for you. We're talking about a longer, timeline in which many generations and the sequence, the follow-up of decisions and lifestyle is an expression of, it is an expression of what humans in relation to those decisions, the consequences of those decisions have to experience today. If in the Second World War or the First World War some generations of people did something, then there is also an outcome experienced by another group of people. If in the Inca times the Incas did something to some cultures, then there is an outcome in many generations later for people of those tribes or from those communities. If the Europeans came to South America and did something there, there is also an outcome for many generations in the future. So the question is, what today? The 5 generations today, boomers, Generation X, Millennials, Z, Alpha, are going to do? Are we going to make a difference? Are we going to change something? Or are we going to be moved by the river of life and repeat the same story again and again? One day or day one, when are you going to start making a difference in your own life and caring for your legacy, the people you are instructing, supporting, teaching, coaching, employing, serving with your services and products? Where are you going to start making a difference that go beyond the acquisition of wealth and quality of life, quality time, freedom today, and care for a collective development of humanity, for an upgrade of humanity? Can you make that choice within yourself and start with your own personal growth, with your own spiritual growth, with learning how can you make better choices in life? In the same way, I was asking this uncomfortable question to Buddhist practitioners, to practitioners of different other religions around the world. In the same way, I've been researching on ancient cultures and civilizations, the history and the technology, the wonderful, majestic pieces of knowledge and architecture and technology and the science for living and knowledge for personal growth and health that is coming in time to us, including that one of our actual generation today with modern science and technology. But there is something that seems that is being missed still in the experience of the human species on this planet, which is a collective agreement on the need of advancing our global civilization, of advancing the development of our human species. And how can we do that consciously? And if you ask scholars studying behavior, cognitive science, personal growth, psychology, the question of a collective of people making a conscious choice to change, to evolve for the well-being of the future generations. If you look at the history and timeline of people that had a normal life making the choices that everybody made, and in one moment in their life they think and reflect, and for some reason they connect to something internal that's so powerful that move them to do changes in their life. It's important to understand that this is a transition process, and eventually, as today, many events on our planet are shocking us. And it is not only or not enough to set a law or put an agreement of thinking, of perception, what needs to be done and how. I believe that humanity can go beyond the present moment and understand their situation in time, and that we are repeating ourselves in those cycles, changing roles, and creating the same type of suffering and the same type of outcome, plus the consumption of all resources on our planet. I believe technology can solve all of that, but what technology cannot solve is the evolution of the human species. Even artificial intelligence today may produce more with the little knowledge that our species have produced. But if you think about it, what is the type of knowledge we humans have produced in the last thousands of years and the outcome that we create? And if we give that mindset and that information to an artificial intelligence, that the only thing that it can do is to eat that information and learn from what we did to improve it, then certainly we need to be careful on what we feed into artificial intelligence. And this is just only a single thought. We need to be careful what we feed to our children in behavior, ideas, concept, experiences. And today, social media, internet, it's filled with so much of so many things. So there is no other choice but to look one more time into the values and education that we provide to our children at home, at school. And eventually governments and communities need to have a new approach of policy, that we need not only to deliver skills for people to work and make money but contribute to the economy, which is very, very important, but also we need a space in the education process for people to grow in values, in personal growth, to grow in the ability to engage for community and society, to evolve as humanity. And if we don't make those choices together, and if there are no leaders that really care for those choices, because change, personal growth is not necessarily popular and doesn't create no votes. But if we think about the future generations, what we want to bring to future generations, probably we would like to break that cycle and give a new opportunity, create a new potential for the future generations. Probably you have heard it at home or in history or in beautiful novels that money doesn't create the outcome that you look for. If there is not a person with a heart, with intelligence, with willpower, with engagement, braveness, that take actions, wealth doesn't solve the problem. So there was this idea some years ago that considering the outcome of the last 540 years of colonialism in Latin America, and that the gold and the silver and all the wealth was being used to fund the four industrial revolutions that created the progress and quality of life in the Western world today, that probably a good share of that investment will be maybe 27% of the whole profit to give it back to now South America, maybe Africa and Asia. But today it's not anymore about, Europe as a continent or a specific country. We have also huge corporations that have profit from the knowledge, the wealth, and the resources available to them. So it's a complicated request, it's a complicated question, and I think the greatest investment today will be into empowering leaders and education in communities and young people to take responsibility and ownership of their own situation, of their own challenges, and help them, give them leverage, give them opportunities and possibilities to create the change that they need. And this is not only like giving them a course and good luck, become a hero. It is also about making the pathway more easy for them to generate a change that they need in their lives, in the societies. And I think if you look at entrepreneurship and startups, then you can understand the type of challenges that people will face if they would like to advance the civilization of their communities. But so education is not enough, innovation and technology is not enough, knowledge and wealth given for change is not enough. Need to be a holistic, systemic, program that it's provided to people for them themselves to make choices about what they feel they need in their own lives. We can also not impose knowledge and expectations to them. But in general, I think there is something that needs to be done to change the future. And this change needs to start with the engagement of the human as a collective, and a humanity that is inclusive and diverse. And certainly today we have a great challenge with that. A great challenge in discrimination, in separation, in divisions of belief systems, of political belief systems, of economic belief systems, on academic belief systems, and cultural belief systems. And we have limited beliefs, and we have beliefs that hinder our possibility to grow, to look beyond, to perceive ourselves and the world and society in a complete new way. So if we want a new civilization in the future, we need to go beyond those limitations, those limited beliefs, and find a way to jump into a complete new state of consciousness and capacity to take action and to make decisions how to use our resources, our wealth, our opportunities, and collaborate with each other. And I think this is a great challenge. It's the great challenge of the century, to break the cycle of the last thousands of years and create something new. Since the year 1993, I've been working with groups of people, diversity of people working together, learning new skills, learning about personal growth, entrepreneurship, social impact, social responsibility, taking ownership of our own life journeys. And I've done that in many scenarios, in many locations in the world. And one of the things I've learned is that when a group of people comes together and agree on a common vision, they have a positive outcome for society, there is a great strength that we can bring together. And if this outcome is beneficial for everybody, it's even better, including if it's beneficial for the earth. So I think that today, with the foundation of education and information and experience we have in the whole planet, the current 5 generations can make a difference. And it's a very positive set of conditions that we have today. And I really trust that we can do that. If you want to participate in this conversation, please reach out. We can introduce you to a series of practices that are important for your personal growth, so you can start with yourself, with your family, with your community. I will be happy to give a workbook for starting your journey and a coaching session. It is a complex goal, but we can make something positive out of the situation we have, the challenges we have today, and go beyond.